Welcome to Empowered by Iron, the podcast for female strength athletes by female strength athletes. We're your hosts, Kristen Lander from Fiercely Field Nutrition Coaching and Mary Morton, PhD candidate. All right, guys, this week we're going to talk to you about technique issues in lifts and things that maybe prevent you from lifting more, big mistakes that we see, and
kind of some tips and remedies, I'd say, to make them better. So I'm going to try to break it down into more of the what I see as a coach, and then Kristen's going to give us the more physiology, is that what you call it?
Yep, or biomechanical.
Chiropractical approach to what kind of injuries she sees from these technical issues that I see as a coach.
Yep.
The reason that I wanted to do this podcast, sorry, that was my dog.
Dixie.
The reason that I wanted to do this podcast specifically was because you scroll out through Instagram and you see these people really celebrating big numbers, which is great and it's awesome. But a lot of these people are pretty elite lifters, or they've been doing it for a long time. And someone who's just starting out or who's pretty new to the sport, those numbers can seem intimidating and they can seem like milestones. So like, for example, for me, the first time I deadlifted over 300 pounds, I was super stoked. Now my technique was pretty horrible, but I did it, and it was a milestone, but my back hurt for like 3 weeks afterwards. So I wanted to talk about I wanted to just talk about some of the biggest mistakes that I see in technique that limit the amount of weight you can put on the bar. And we all want to lift more, but you're not going to be able to lift more until you fix these technical issues.
Yeah, and so that's the case for making sure your technique is good before putting all this weight on the bar, which is something I definitely did in the past, and it really limited me and led to some injuries.
You mean you put weight on the bar before your technique was good?
Yeah.
Me too. Well, me too, but I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. Yeah. It's terrible. And it's because we let our egos get in the way and we want to lift all this weight, but maybe you shouldn't. There's times when you shouldn't. And there's times when you need to step back and work on your technique, because if you work on it, eventually, all of a sudden, you're suddenly going to be way stronger because you're doing it right and you're doing it appropriately for your body type.
Right. You're building the correct set of muscles to help you in that specific that specific movement.
Yeah.
Rather than the wrong muscles that are just trying to rescue you from your shitty technique.
Right. Well, and I think this is super common. I think a lot of times people get to this, like, I'm going to really focus on technique after they did it wrong to start with. I think this is like something almost every lifter has to go through. So if you haven't done that yet, and if you haven't hurt yourself and you have crappy technique, listen to us because we've been there. We did it the wrong way. Right. Don't do it the wrong way.
And I know we've said this before, but like, if you really want to learn good technique, find yourself a good coach. And you don't have to have a coach for forever, especially in powerlifting. If you can get a coach who can teach you what to look for in your own lifts, like what's good, what's bad, and how to correct it, like you don't need a coach for forever. So it's not like a life sentence of you need a coach for forever.
Right.
Okay.
Well, first of all, what's a really good, do you have just a general idea of like how to know what if someone doesn't know their technique is bad? Like, are there any like clues, like pain or?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like in squat, for example, one good thing to know if you have bad technique is if your lower back is hurting, or if your hips are really bothering you.
Yeah. I think in general, any lifting you do, if you're having low back pain, something's funny with your technique, or you have some tightness somewhere else that's messing things up.
Yeah. So I used to think that I had to quit squatting because my low back would hurt so bad. And it turns out I just had shitty technique. And now I can lift way more than I used to.
Right.
But my technique's way better. My back never hurts.
Right.
Not once.
So break down some of these lifts for us.
Okay. So first, this is going to be mainly powerlifting focused because that's mainly what I coach.
Okay.
So first is going to be squatting. So the first thing I have my clients do when I get a new client is I have them I have them video all their lifts. So they'll send me their squat. And typically there are two main things that I see with the squat that I can immediately correct. We can immediately start working on. First of all, believe it or not, is the stupid ass to grass. Ass to grass is super important for Olympic weightlifting. You have to be able to do that. You have to be able to get as low as you possibly can to catch a clean at the bottom of a clean or to catch a snatch at the bottom of the snatch. But for powerlifting, all you have to do is hit parallel. Your hip joint has to pass your knee joint ever so slightly for it to count. So if you're squatting ass to grass and you can do that with good form, that's fine. But for the most part, what I see with new clients is when they're squatting ass to grass or way too low, they start to get what's called a butt wink.
Yep.
So basically everything is way too tight. So their hamstrings are tight, their glutes are tight, and it's essentially pulling their hips under. They're getting a pelvic tilt under them, and it's hurting their lower back. So when they start lifting with their back instead of their legs.
Right. Anytime if you guys can imagine that, you've probably seen people do this where the pelvis tucks under as they pass parallel. And anytime that happens, you're getting flexion in the lumbar spine. Flexion in the lumbar spine under load is a very, very, very bad thing. You're going to blow out a disc. That is really, you might not do it today, you might not do it tomorrow, but if you do that over and over and over and over, you're going to have a serious problem in your low back. Mm-hmm. I've seen it happen many, many times. It's also for a lot of people, it is weakness in the lower abs. It's inability to control, their inability to maintain tightness in the lower abdominal region, and then they let go and let it come down. Yeah.
So
it makes that noise too. Boom, boom.
That's how you know you have a butt wink. So a lot of people, speaking to that, a lot of people see lifters take a big breath before they lift.
Yep.
And then I think that they're just holding their breath as they're going down, and that's what creates tension. Yeah. That's what creates stability. That's not true. Right. You can take a big breath, and you can actually let that breath out and keep your abs tight. If you can do that, like right now I'm sitting here and my abs are tight. Right. My core is tight. I could squat right now.
Yep.
The big breath is kind of more of a mental cue, so you have to be able to keep your abs tight. But that's not the second one. The second one that I see with squats is their feet stand. So where you put your feet. Now, some lifters who are more equipped, so they wear equipment, they have certain suits that help them squat, certain knee wraps, certain bench suits. You'll see them squat really wide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how you have to squat. That's like suited squatting.
That's suited squatting. Mm-hmm. So like Gracie Van Ness, that's how she squats. When she did compete, that's how she squatted. And a lot of people see that and think that they need to have a really wide stance to be able to squat like a power lifter. I thought that for the longest time. I thought I needed to have really wide hips, and I never could reach parallel, and I'd get back pain and all that good stuff. What I learned is I actually have very narrow hips. And like I have a client who she has wider hips, so she can stand very wide and squat really low. But she has great mobility. She was a dancer, and she has great hip flexibility. So she can do that, whereas I can't.
Right.
So I hardly ever see clients come to me with too narrow of a stance. They're usually too wide. So there's really no great remedy for this, though. I can't just be like, oh, well, you have a 36-inch waist. That makes sense. You probably need to stand 2.5 feet apart. Like, you're just going to have to play with it. If squatting's not your thing, it's going to feel uncomfortable. Like, no matter what, but try to find something that's more comfortable. Now, some people will find their sweet spot, and squatting's their thing, and that's it. But if you find that you think your stance is too wide, just start playing with it a little bit. You'll find a good spot.
Yeah, so the way that they know that their stance is too wide is if, number one, it looks super wide, and they're not able to hit parallel.
Definitely the not being able to hit parallel and getting any pain in your hips.
Okay.
That means that your hips may not necessarily be tight, but if you do have tight hips, you're going to be basically forcing your hips down, and that's not what you want. You don't want to hurt yourself.
Right.
Right.
No, don't hurt yourself.
Don't hurt yourself. Okay, so those are the two main things for squats. For bench, this is what I see almost 100% of the time with women who come to me for coaching. Number one, their grip on the bar is way too narrow. Ladies, when you're benching, your grip should not be shoulder width apart. Your grip should be wider than shoulder width apart. Now again, like with the squat stance, you're gonna have to tweak it. But sometimes I'll tell clients, okay, so you did bench yesterday. Today you're gonna do close grip bench, and they'll send me a picture of them benching, and they'll say, well, how much closer should I get? And they're already in a close grip bench stance. Widen your grip and actually use your chest muscles. When you have a narrow grip, you're working mostly your triceps.
Yep.
So you're going to have some built triceps, but you're not really working your chest all that much.
Right.
Widen your grip, use your chest.
Right. And when you widen your grip, you can engage your lats,
Yes.
that is going to be huge.
Just like a pull-up.
It's just like a pull-up. That's why if you did a lot of pull-ups, bench is going to be a little harder. But if you get really good at pull-ups, you're going to get stronger at bench. And that's why, because you go a little wider, you engage those lats, and that is a huge key in benching.
Right. The other thing that's huge and like you wouldn't even think is a thing, it's not using your legs.
So people that fail to use their legs in the bench.
Right.
I had no idea. I was never actually taught to bench. And then I started, a long time ago, I started benching with you and our friend John, and was like, what do you mean use your legs? I had no idea.
It's called the drive. Basically, people have found a way to hijack the bench by using your legs. You use your entire body to push that bar off your chest. Now, it's not something that's super coordinated at first. You're going to look like an idiot at first.
So awkward.
Because you have to bring the bar down to your chest, and then you press. And you have to press with your legs. But if you don't have that drive, if you watch any of the big girls, the big names like Jen Thompson, Marissa Inda, Katie Ann Rutherford, any of those girls, you'll notice that when they press out of the bench, it seems like their whole body shifts. Right. And that's not because their upper body is moving so much. It's because their legs are driving them towards the end of the bench. They are pressing the shit out of that bar with their entire body.
Right. The one thing is you can't allow your butt to come up, right?
Yeah, butt can't come up, feet can't come up. But there's an art to that. That's where the arch comes in. But we can talk about that on a different podcast. Mm-hmm. People hate on the arch, but the arch allows you to be powerful with your legs.
It allows you to be powerful with your legs, and it almost puts you in a decline position, which is a much stronger position, and you get a lot more lat engagement. It makes you better. So the arch makes you lift more. So the arch is good. We want the arch.
The arch is really good, no matter what someone tells you. Now, there's good and bad ways to utilize the arch, but you get better at it with proper coaching. I guess there's a third thing, and I'll make it real brief with the bench. Don't let the bar crash on you.
Yeah.
If you dive bomb the bar to your chest, there's no way you're going to get it off. And if you do, it's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. You need to stay tight when you're bringing the bar to your chest and explode out. If you're loose when you bring it into your chest, all of a sudden you have to get all this power and tighten everything back up to press.
Right.
Think of yourself as a rubber band. The rubber band is stretching and then it's releasing.
Right. It's similar to a squat. Like, that's why people that have a butt wink in the bottom of the squat, they have a really hard time, because if you're letting your core go soft in the bottom of a squat, good luck coming out of it.
Exactly.
You're going to have to shoot your butt way out, and then it's going to look like a good morning.
A good morning, right. And typically the people who have butt wings, not all of them, but a lot of them, dive bomb in the squat too.
Exactly.
They go so fast down and there's no tension.
Right.
That's a great idea. Let's dive to the bottom with 200 pounds on our back.
Back to the narrow position on the bench. Mm-hmm. Benching heavy with too narrow of a position is not very good for your shoulders either.
Tell us more, Dr.
Yeah,
Kristen.
well, you're going to get some some pain in the front of your shoulder. You can get some pinching in there.
Because you're not using your chest.
Because you're not using your chest. Well, I mean, you're still using your chest a little bit, but you're not using the pec major as much in a narrow position. So it's putting a lot more stress on your shoulders. Instead of like keeping that tension on there, you're basically just using your triceps and maybe your pec minor, and your pec major is way bigger and stronger muscle. So
use your major pec.
Yeah.
Ladies. Okay, finally, the deadlift, the favorite. The pull that shit off the floor, hardly any technique involved, right? Wrong. So The first thing I see in clients is when you deadlift, your knees and your hips should lock out almost simultaneously. They should come together. So that way you're pulling the bar up, you're using your back and your legs equally to pull that bar up.
Right.
What I see a lot of people do is they start way too high. Mm-hmm. And so immediately their knees lock out, and then they're using their back to pull basically the weight off the floor.
Right.
So the way that you fix what I call RDLing the bar, or Romanian deadlift, straight leg deadlifting the bar, is start with your hips lower and get your body tight before you lift. Don't jerk up on the bar. Mm-hmm. Get down, grab the bar, tighten your body, tighten your back, tighten your legs, pull up on the bar, then go. Mm-hmm. But bring your hips down, sit your hips back. The closer your hips are to the ground, I'm not saying like sit, hardly even go parallel, but the closer your hips are to the ground, the more powerful you are. So you can use more of your legs and more of your back.
Okay.
Okay?
Got it.
So just set your hips a little lower. The other thing, we see it all the time, people yell at people all the time, is curving your back. Yeah. Keep a tight back. A lot of my clients come in with very weak backs. Mm-hmm. So we work a lot. I mean, everything you could think of, any sort of pulling row, anything to work their back so they're able to keep that tension. Because it's not that they are just recklessly ignoring it. They're just weak.
Right. It's just something that's happening under load because they don't have the strength to resist the forces that are pulling on their spine. Exactly. So they get some rounding.
Right. So if you have a good coach will be able to look at your deadlift and say, oh, her back is rounding a little bit because it's a max lift, but otherwise she's fine. Or like, okay, we need to take a step back. Let's step off the amount of weight you're lifting. Let's really get your back strong. Otherwise, you're going to hurt yourself.
Right. So it's not, if you watch people at meets, they're doing the most weight that they've ever lifted before, usually. And you will see a little bit of rounding, especially in the upper back in those lifts, and that's fine. That's not really a big deal.
A little, not like mountaintop up there.
Right. But if you are having any sort of motion occurring in your spine, particularly your low back, in a lift that's not a max lift, that is a really bad sign.
Yeah.
And that is, again, we talked about flexion of the spine under load. So if you've got any sort of rounding occurring, that's flexion. And that is going to put your back at a huge risk for injury. So you want to, your spine angle never changes. If we put like a PVC across your spine in a deadlift, it should stay touching your butt and your shoulders and not ever move.
Exactly.
It's a hip hinge.
Yep. That's the end move. It's a hinge. And again, with the keeping your core muscles tight, just like in the squat, you want to keep your stabilizers tight. Not just a big breath, but keep your muscles tight.
Yeah.
And finally, the last one is forcing a type of deadlift technique. So some people see people pull conventional versus sumo deadlift, and it all just depends on your mechanics. People typically with tighter hips go conventional, and they're just as strong as people who have looser or more mobile hips that are able to get in the sumo position and pull from the sumo position, because that makes it really hard. So don't try to force one or the other because it looks cool.
Right.
Pick what's best for your biomechanics.
Right. Yeah, tight hips and sumo don't go together, which is why I cannot sumo, but I can conventional deadlift a lot. I conventional deadlift, more than what a lot of people sumo deadlift. And it's not because I'm like awesome at conventional deadlift. It's because my body's not set up for sumo. I just can't do it.
Exactly. So those are kind of the main things that I see in the squat, the bench, and the deadlift. And going back to the technique part, don't be afraid to back off the weights and fix your technique. Even if you have a meet coming up, even if it's like something that's really important, you really want to hit a number, trust me, backing off the weights and focusing on your technique for a while. I mean, I went for like 4 or 5 months where I wasn't hardly squatting anything, but I was really focusing on my mobility and fixing my squat, and I did.
Yep.
I don't have back pain anymore, but it was frustrating 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. Oh, I've been there. I had to switch from low bar back squatting to high bar back squatting, and had my core was a mess, my back was a mess, my hips were a mess. It was really, really, really difficult. I had to work on core strength and hip flexibility, and I found it took me a really long time to be able to get my like high bar back squat heavier than what my low bar back squat used to be.
Right.
And then, imagine that, my low bar back squat like skyrocketed because suddenly I had core strength and hip mobility. Yeah. But
I'm a huge proponent of not just giving powerlifters low bar back squats, but all the variations.
Yeah.
I give them high bar, front squat, if they have a safety bar, anything that keeps them more upright than a low bar squat, because it forces them to build those stabilizers.
Yep. So basically, you want to decrease the load and just hammer technique. It will make you better in the long run. It is such a hard thing to do, and if you can't do it yourself, hire a coach who's going to force you to do it. But it's super frustrating. You're going to be incredibly frustrated when you do this, but trust us, because it really will make a huge difference in your lifting. And maybe you're not gonna hit the total that you wanted to hit this year, or maybe you're not going to place first at this meet that you want to place in,
or nationals, or whatever
it is that your goal. It might take you longer to get there, but you're going to be able to stay in the game a lot longer, and you're going to get better exponentially quickly after you do this.
Yeah. So take your time, take a step back, work out the technique.
So if people want to work with you, how do they find you?
You can find me on Instagram as told by Mary. You can also shoot me an email at barebonestraining. That's BAREBONES training @gmail.com. I'm more than happy to help you. I'm taking on powerlifting clients right now, so if it's something you want to do, if you have technique issues, shoot me a message. I'm more than happy to help you with your technique as well. I have a lot of people just shoot me messages. Don't do too much of that, though, because sometimes I'm not on Instagram. But, yeah.
Or they can tag you on Instagram.
Tag me on Instagram if you want any input. Yeah, if you guys have any other questions, you can shoot Empowered by Iron an email at empoweredbyiron@gmail.com. Make sure you are subscribed to the podcast. Give us a rating if you haven't. That would be awesome. And we'll see you next week.
See you guys.
Bye.